Some videos.
All right, get started.
Okay.
What's going on with Sean?
He's the one running our Instagram start and stop stream because software is a
Really?
pile. Yeah.
Remotely?
It's.
Oh, I thought you were asking with that rash.
Yeah.
Cleared him.
I think that cleared up.
Hopefully.
All right, we are.
I
think we're up on everything.
Yeah.
Facebook's
up and running.
not really telling me. Can you check on Facebook?
I'm not seeing anything.
The Book of Faces. Faceless.
Well, let me see.
Instagrams of Insta.
Way to go. All right, let me see if I can just kick it live here. It says we're live. Can you see if it's actually like us moving? So I get to the static image right now.
We are now.
Things are moving. All
There we
right.
go.
Okay, I think everything's up and running now, guys.
All right. We're up and running. Fine. All right. Welcome to the 034 Motorsport live chat. I am Javon Shotzi, and this is Nate Stewart. We're here to answer all your questions about 034 Motorsport products and services. This is a kind of a Q&A, ask us anything style format. We typically answer questions about 034 products and services, but feel free to ask us about anything you'd like. Certainly anything car or automotive related is more than welcome. But anything about the company, about our history, about our philosophy, about something that you're unhappy about, let us know.
Product intricacies, anything you're looking to learn more about.
We do have a bunch of questions queued up already.
Yeah, there's people
somehow
loading up YouTube right now too.
And we take a no BS approach to responding to questions that you ask, and we're very direct to the point. And if you're one of our competitors and you're watching and we hurt your feelings, we're not sorry. Okay, let's jump in. There was a question that came in this week over our YouTube channel. I'll just try to read this real quick while we got some other stuff coming. Any particular reason no one in the world has been able to replicate a 9-second pass like you guys, even after copying your setup down to the last bolt? Is there some race drag tune hiding there somewhere that's not safe for customer cars? Because you guys said that an off-the-shelf tune should perform on all cars the same way. In India, we are struggling to break into the 10s at full weight, but with a proper slick setup. Will the car be much slower on the street? Basically, he goes on to just, you know. So one thing I want to specify is a popular misconception. So trap speed, which is how fast the car is going when it crosses the line, is greatly influenced by the tune on the ECU, specifically relating to how much horsepower the tune is able to generate from the turbo system and engine that it's controlling. Now, elapsed time, which people really, get excited about, is the time it took you to go from the moment your tires cross the line to crossing the light at the end of the drag strip. And in this case, we're talking about a 9.9 second run. The trap speed was what?
What are we talking about?
The
RS5. No, we're talking about the RS5.
Oh, our RS5 is 159.9.
Yeah. So basically 140 miles an hour trap speed, but it was a 9.9 second ET. And I don't know if we're talking S4s, it's not much different. So the ET, which is the elapsed time, certainly is influenced by the tune. But the difference between a 10.2 and a 9.9 does not necessarily have anything to do with tuning. That has a lot to do with the tire setup, the drag prep,
alignment.
The car setup in general, including alignments, tire pressures, what type of tire you're running, what kind of alignment you have, what kind of suspension you're running, if you have light brake rotors and things like that. And so you see these very heavily drag prepped cars. Now you could take two cars with 600 horsepower and you could optimize one for a very fast high grip launch. And let's say that car is running a 1.5 second 60 foot. Take the same 600 horsepower car with just street tires and a street setup, and it may be running a 1.8 or 1.9 60 foot. The difference at the end of the drag strip is going to be like a half a second at least between those two cars. And that's with the same tune with the same horsepower. So if you're in India, I don't know much about drag racing in India. My impression is it's probably dusty or there's like a rainforest nearby or something.
Higher temperatures.
Temperatures for sure.
Temperatures are definitely
That's going to be a huge impact. Obviously, there's no way to get around.
And terrible DA. I mean, you're talking about hot, humid.
Yeah.
Cars are Colorado full set half.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you go up to any
that's
altitude here.
elevation. I don't know what the elevation in
The times just drop.
but so the reason I'm saying all this is to kind of address your kind of accusation that there's different tunes and that the tune you have is somehow slower than the tune we have. That's not true. We were running basically a production file. There's nothing different about the file we were running, and customers can go just as fast as we did with the production file. So there wasn't like some dangerous high boost tune that's a lot faster than what we deliver to customers. That's just not true. But the variables there that would cause you to run slower are numerous and plentiful. So again, the car setup, the kind of tires, the drag surface, the DA will all have huge effects on how fast you run. So that when we ran, whether it was our S4 or the RS5, but we ran the 9 and the RS5, it was a relatively cool day with a very good DA. We had a good tire setup. We had a prepped drag surface. So we had all the advantages going for us. These advantages are available, to everyone as well. But I don't know. I don't know what the DA, I don't know what a good DA in India is, depending on where you're at. In the US, there's an opportunity across the entire US to get, at certain times of the year, to get very good DAs that are conducive to running really fast times. In Ecuador, maybe not, because it's pretty hot and humid all year round there. They may never get into a negative DA situation. So anyways, just wanted to kind of address that right out the bat. Getting a fast elapsed time ET in drag racing is a skill that's related to a lot of factors other than the tuning. So a lot of us tuners tout our drag performance, especially for the trap speed. We're hitting 140 miles an hour in our RS5. That's fast. That's a lot of power. That means the tune is producing the power. The shifts are fast, and we're delivering the power through shifts, before the shifts, after the shifts. It takes a lot of performance to get that fast. So if you're comparing another tune that only runs 133 miles an hour, ours is making a lot more power. So that's where that really comes down to, and it's where the rubber meets the road. But as far as running fast elapsed times, That's something just about anyone can do, even you could take a stock car with a stock tune. You could get that car down into the nines with the right setup. Now, your trap speed is going to be slow. It's going to be like 115 or whatever, but you could run tens with a stock tune. If you go to the drag strip, you see these older V8 powered cars with huge wrinkle slicks in the back, and they're running like eights and nines, and their trap speeds are like 110 miles an hour. That's very different than what we see in the kind of the Audi performance community. All right, differences and pros and cons between an oiled and dry air filter. Okay, there's a when we're talking about an oiled air filter, there's not one kind of oiled air filter. There are filters that rely heavily on oil as the filtering medium. So this is like foam air filters and the traditionally the K&N air filter, which is a pretty loose like cotton weave that has a really thick viscous oil in it that's really sticky. And so as air flows kind of in and around these globs of oil, dust and particles stick to it as it goes through. Dry air filters are like what you get from the factory. They're made from typically paper or cotton. They don't have any oil in them, and they simply rely on the size of the pores in the filter media to grab a certain percent of the particulate matter that runs through of a certain size. Our filters have a very light, they're delivered with a very light oil film. They're not what I would consider oiled filters like the K&N filter, or there's foam filters out there where they take a foam, they soak it in oil. Ours is essentially performs like a dry air filter. The problem with oiled filters, and this is a problem that we saw a lot in the 90s when K&N filters started getting popular, is that this oil, there's a lot of thick oil in the filter, gets sucked into the motor. And a lot of times this oil would coat the MAF sensor and cause issues with the MAF sensor readings. And it just coat the inside of your intake system with this kind of oily residue. Again, you'll never see that from one of our filters. So because our filters are delivered with this little bit of oil, which kind of keeps the media kind of plumped up so that the fibers don't get compressed or whatever. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by typing. Because you'll never see like oil from our filter coming out into your intake or coating your intake or anything like that. So that's the main thing. I think in general we prefer dry filters that rely on the media, the porosity of the media, and not the oil to stick. We do have a cleaning kit which includes this light oil that you can apply to it. But again, it's ours perform essentially like dry filters, which rely on the size of the filtering media. A bunch of people are asking about advanced launch control. You have a little update on that.
I mean, it's coming. I'm working on it right now. So I'm hoping to have more news for you soon. We've got some good progress on it recently to get it more in a finalized state outside of just some theory and testing and in-house stuff. We're now getting it set up so we can port it and set it up in all your various box codes and things. So we've got a really good path forward, and it's hopefully not going to be too far off.
I have a 2011 A7 Stage 2 dual pulley. Recently, my serpentine belt is slipping after only running my dual pulley setup for 5,000 kilometers. Do you know if only replacing the belt is enough, or do I need a new tensioner?
That's impossible to answer. I mean, you have a 2011. The tensioner might be a little out of, below spec, but I don't know what belt you put on there. That's a really tough one to answer.
The belts can slip. You want to make sure, the belt and all your pulleys and stuff are clean. There's actually a pulley dressing spray you can apply and make sure it's all clean. It might be a good idea to replace the tensioner.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
I mean,
you're talking
it
about
hurts.
12 whatever year old tensioner now.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt.
Yeah, I would say replace the tensioner and replace the belt. We sell replacement belts, they're not very expensive.
Yep.
But that's usually what it is. Will you guys make a carbon headlight intake duct for the B8.5 S4 for the drag strip? Not something we're planning on doing currently.
Yeah, that's a super. I mean, only a couple of people are going to be running that ever. I don't know how much of a market there is for that.
Are there any reliability issues with the 22 Audi S4 Dynamic Plus tune? And if so, what mods should I get to support it? There are no reliability issues with any of our tunes. If there were, we would not sell them, or we would put them on hold until we were able to fix whatever issue there was. So definitely no known issues there. It goes with, it's worth saying that when you do turn up the performance of any car, you do increase the maintenance requirements, the cycle of maintenance, and you do stress components in the car more. Again, we're not seeing a lot of specific failures or things wearing out really fast or anything like that, but you will go through more spark plugs. You will stress your coils more, and so if your coils are kind of at the edge of firing a full current spark, then you'll start to get misfires and things like that. So
all your operating ranges get a lot tighter the more power you make. So yeah, if you've got to Joe's point, a coil or an injector that's a little outside of spec and isn't quite up to full potential, you're going to see that a lot sooner, depending on how much power you're making over the stock design.
If you're concerned about all that stuff, I recommend sticking with like a stage 1 tune and doing the supporting mods. It's going to be a lot of power.
Yeah.
And once you go to like big turbo stage 3 stuff, you're really pushing things more towards the limit. Again, still no major reliability issues or anything, but if you're looking for that kind of stock reliability, stage 1 is a great way to go. The stock injectors are proving to be probably the biggest issue that we're hearing about. And again, it's not related to the tuning, but the injectors do seem to be more failure prone. And I think it's safe to say this is on factory cars as well as tuned cars.
100%. I mean, we've been seeing this for the V8 guys for a while now.
Yeah.
It's showing that it's true as well for the B9s.
It's just, when you're at kind of the limit of what the injector can flow, and then if for some reason the injector is not only flowing 80%, then you could kind of get away with that in a stock car, but you won't be able to get away with it on a tuned car because everything is being pushed more to the limit. So you just kind of lose out on some of the headroom that the factory builds. But this will typically show up with misfires, and it's pretty quick and easy to diagnose. And thankfully, injectors on these motors aren't too hard to change either.
Yeah.
But as far as supporting mods, the intercooler and intake are great. You could do the super duper throttle body inlets and supporting modification as well.
It'd be the turbo one.
Turbo. Yeah.
The acceleration package.
Yeah. Check out our acceleration package. That would for the B9. So that would pretty much have everything you need. But check out our website. We have a lot of good mods there. And if you have any specific questions, let us know. Have you guys had issues extended crank while on E40 when the engine is already up to temp, B8.5 S4?
Not that I can recall anybody reporting the V8. The V8 motor in general, in my opinion at least, has like an extra crank or two compared to most cars in general. E40 is going to have a little bit more fuel requirements before it can light off. So it waits till system pressure gets up to a certain point. So I'm not sure, but exactly what you're seeing. If there's an issue, we can look at it with, I'd email tuning at 034motorsport.com. We can start looking at some logs if we want. But no, I mean, we need to know, is it like stumbling to life? Is it just, an extra crank and then it fires right up normally? So we'll need to get a little more info around that to help much more.
Someone's asking if they can run advanced launch control without the flames and machine gun pops.
That's B9. B9 is going to be very different than the B8 launch control strategy. B9, we are doing a full torque controlled strategy off the line. So, I mean, yeah, there's going to be no.
Well, a lot of people want that too. This guy does, but
Yeah.
I'd say 80% of the people do at least.
Yeah, well, there's going to be, the launch control is going to be very different than B9. So you'll have to see what that results when we get closer to release on that.
Yeah.
But the B8, I mean, just the B8 also doesn't need to run with flames and pop. There's 2 modes in that. You can set your RPM and run it in basically not sport mode. You run it in comfort mode. It's just going to do an RPM hold normally, and you're off just like you would be stock. But you can pick where you're launching. When it's in like full sport mode and all your raunchiness is turned up, and that's when you get the ignition stuff.
Yeah.
We just got woofed. That's why we put
Oh,
this
thank goodness. There. It's wolf time.
there.
Yeah, you don't have to run the pops and bangs if you don't want to. So we have different modes you can.
Yep.
I just want to say congrats on the customer car running 9s. Awesome to see. Excited to get my car back and do the same. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we've got now we've got 2 customer cars in the Norton.
Yeah. So yes, we did have one of our dealers, DNT Performance, ran a 9 seconds tune. Was it this weekend?
It was this weekend.
Yeah.
Sunday.
So they actually did 3 runs in a row in the 9s, and these runs are the fastest ever. So the highest trap speed, but they're very fast ETs as well.
Yep.
And the only car that's run a faster ET was IE, and this was like on a heavily prepped, car with a lot of drag prep. These guys at DNT did not have that level of prep. So again, per the earlier conversation, you wouldn't expect them to go have the same ET because they didn't have the same level of launching prep. But our tune is making more power clearly. Even with a worse launch, we're running up to 3 miles an hour faster at the end of the drag strip. And that takes a lot of power to do that.
Yep.
So they ran a 9.992, 9.961, and a 9.893, and that was at 140.2, 143.04, and 142.15.
Yeah, it's by far the quickest.
Yeah.
The fastest runs yet.
It's interesting. They actually went faster in the 9.9 than they did in the 9.8. Again, to further prove the point that the ET and the trap speed are really driven by very different things, which is what's so cool about drag racing. One of the things that you can really play with. Let's see. Their mods were. The car still had all door cards, full exhaust, stock driver's seat, but they removed the rear seats, the passenger seat, and the spare tire. So about 200 pounds of weight reduction.
Yep.
That's
about.
Which starts out at 400 pounds.
It's an S5 Sportback, so it's already heavier.
300 pounds heavier.
300 pounds heavier.
S4.
Yeah. So this is practically speaking a full weight S4. And then as far as modifications, they're running Dynamic Plus Stage 3 E60, and then our Dynamic Plus Stage 3 TCU tune, a TTE A10 turbocharger, 034 super duper inlet, and P34 intake, a 034 high pressure fuel pump, a 034 high flow cat, some upgraded intercooler, RS5 injectors, which we specify, 4-bar map sensors, and this is on stock suspension, and then 18-inch wheels with 245 4018 DR2s.
that setup is effectively our entire stage 3 acceleration package.
Yeah, that's literally our entire setup.
Yeah, we have all those parts in our stage 3 acceleration package. So very cool. Congrats, guys, and thank you for doing it with our products.
Yeah.
Honored. Very cool.
And then we had another customer last week run a 9.5, yeah, on a completely unprepped surface. So that's pretty killer there too.
So and the customers are running 9s.
Yeah.
It's funny because that question came in.
Yeah, like the question came in
Really
last week,
week.
like literally a day or two before we actually had some second customers running.
Yeah. So, all right, another question. I bought my girlfriend an S3 from the dealer, and I opened the hood and saw some of your parts. Car was already a deal, so we got it. Is there a way to see if it has a tune that was flashed to stock?
Absolutely, yeah. Just email tuning at 034motorsport.com with your VIN, and we can take a look and see if it had any of our software on it as well for you.
Well, you have a carb tune for the B9 SQ5. Yes, we are going through the carb process for our B9 3.0 calibrations.
Sorry,
mobile app updates.
We
are working on it.
Coming along very well. Not sure what more updates we can give, but it's making great progress. We're just knocking out work items on it left and right, so won't be very long.
What happened to your Mark IV with the 2.7 T motor? Love that thing. That's our GTI RS.
Talked about that last week.
Last
week? It the week before? We did a bunch of our old where did our cars go thing.
Yeah. I think I sold that car in like 2015 or 2014, something like that. To a gentleman in Colorado, in Nebraska. And it's actually registered, street legal out there. Nebraska, you don't need much. And he's done a lot of like airport half-mile events with it and stuff. As far as I know, he's still driving it. And I think he's probably blown a transmission here or there, fixed it, like happens. But last I heard, he was. It's been a while though. I mean, it's about 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast that.
Yeah, crazy. Is it normal that the Stage 1 ECU tune for the EA888 Gen 4 makes the stock pop and bangs quieter? Will Stage 2 tune fix that? I have a Cupra Leon 300 horsepower from Mexico, and I have your Stage 1 tune.
I don't think the Stage 1 affects it at all. No, that
couldn't.
No, I don't.
But I do hear this from time to time. I don't know, that's like a perception thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what would affect. I'm wondering if it's in the shifts. Maybe they're noticing it with the DSG shift because the shift is happening quicker now. Maybe you just have less time for the overrun noise. I'm not sure, but no, we don't do anything to make it quieter. I can certainly say that.
There is some forum wisdom regarding upgrading the standard VCM10 heims on your upper control arms with something with double the static load capacity, i.e. the stainless CM-10 ET joint. Any input on this? While upgrading to the beefier heims result in longer life for a street-driven car.
I would be very careful. I would have to look at the measurements on this. I would be very careful replacing those. It is that heim joint is spec'd very specifically for the articulation range in the travel and suspension. Generally, when you go to a higher rated static load heim, that the barrel around the ball is just going to get a good deal thicker.
It's literally
and your articulation range drops. And we're like, if we're talking the front control arms, it's using all of the range in that joint. So I would not ever just wholesale replace that without very careful testing.
This is the problem with
articulation.
Yeah, there's a problem with forum wisdom, forum engineers is, there's this idea that, well, if beefy is good, then beefy times 2 is even better.
Cost was not a problem or a consideration on that product. It was not.
They're not cheap.
Yeah,
they're the most expensive.
That wasn't picked just because of some arbitrary reason. It was picked because it was the best fit for the envelope we had to work in, the articulation range we needed, And then, yeah, the strength it provided, we have had 0 mechanical failures in that part. So I wouldn't.
Yeah, we do not recommend
Yeah, I
changing
wouldn't swap
from our
around
specification.
without any really well-engineered reason.
We had a customer post a photo of him. He got hit and ran over a curb at like
Yeah,
60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
The heims punched through the body of the car.
Yeah, no, those heim joints are way over spec for. I mean, if you compare to like the stock ball joint on the end of that, it's a socket and a plastic cup. The heim joint that's on there is way stronger. So
Okay, so I guess I'd love to know what the reasoning is why.
I'm guessing it's if it's a question here for a longer life thing.
I back in the D2 S8. I only ever saw that in the D2 community from like 2006.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify what Nate's point is. If you go with a higher loaded heim, that is the only way they can accomplish that is by adding material. Realistically, right? It's not like there's some.
Yeah, if there's some exotic materials they could use, but I doubt on a CM10ET that it's
the VCM10 is already a very high grade, high quality heim. So there's no. It's not like it's made from cheap melt steel and then all of a sudden they use a high tensile steel or something. But by having more metal around the ball, it reduces the articulation range or the misalignments, as it's called, of heims. When you reduce the misalignments, that heim then binds. And so you just went from a perfectly functioning heim that has full range of motion to one that is binding. There is no amount of beefiness you can add to a heim that will allow it to deal with binding. Binding means that there is no longer any movement in the joint, even though the suspension would like to keep moving. And so you are now exerting thousands and thousands of pounds of force in a kind of a leveraged shearing situation that is very, very dangerous. So please do not change our heims to anything other than what we specify. We sell very cheap, affordable rebuild kits on our website. In some cases, I think you can buy everything you need to replace them for about $100.
Yeah, and just to be clear too, the manufacturer specified misalignment range that you're reading or that are on some spec sheets for the rod ends isn't the whole picture because you've got to take into account the actual shape of it beyond the ball and the receptacle of the ball itself because of the close proximity is the top of the strut. So there's a lot of stuff that comes into play. So when you're swapping that out, you need to know that it's going to clear exactly the same as what you're replacing.
So to answer the question, will it result in longer life? Not likely. It will probably result in some type of catastrophic failure.
If its dimensions are different, it will be a shorter life by far.
And the catastrophic failure could reduce the length of your life as well. So I would not mess with that.
Yeah, we've had no mechanical failures on these.
We know
from a strength standpoint and in a wear. I don't think I've seen any reason to think that it would.
I mean, they are wear items, right? So the heims are consumables. They wear out. It's like putting beefier brake pads in your car, so your pads never wear out, but then like your brakes might not work and you die. We know what we're doing. We are an engineering company. We spec this stuff for a reason. We don't anticipate that people are going to go put different parts in and think that they're better. So please don't do that. Honestly, whoever asked this question, if you're still listening, whenever you see this on the forums, please tell them this. And also,
we'll link the clip out.
Yeah, we'll clip it out. You can link to this, but they're possibly very likely putting their own life in jeopardy. And it won't be our fault because, you people are swapping parts out for other things that they should. That's not what the product was designed. Open versus closed intake on RS3, differences or preferences, and top things to look out for when buying a used DAZA. So as far as open and closed intakes, we do offer both styles, or we have in the past. I think we still do. We still have a closed option on the
on the DAZA. I think so. Yeah.
In general, we prefer intakes like this that would be considered open, they're really not that open because once you shut the hood, this is a pretty enclosed area. The problem with some of the competitor intakes on the market that are closed is the air filters are crammed into air boxes that are too small, so those become crowded. And we've talked about this a lot in the past. Need to spend another 5 minutes going over that, but our intakes, we do publish the CFM flow for the different styles that we list. And all of our intakes are cool air intakes. Even our open intakes do not ingest hot air into the into the engine. So in general, we prefer this style, which is kind of what we call our S34 intake, which again uses the hood as one side of the air box once it's closed. With the recent uptick in injector and plug failures in the B9, is there a priority in developing or working with manufacturers on developing new hardware? As far as the injectors, I don't know what's going to happen there. I mean, FSI injectors are very complex, advanced, kind of practically aerospace devices. So, as far as the plugs, I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary. And spark plugs wear out. The more power you make, the faster they wear out. I mean,
I wonder if I think they might be combining the two issues where injector failures are leading to significant plug damage due to a cylinder being underfueled.
Well, I mean, we're seeing a lot of in service. A lot of people are coming in like, I just changed my plugs 8,000 miles ago. It's like, okay, well,
Yes,
you're making 650, driving it every day. So in the old days, like in the early 2000s. On motors that were making this kind of power, we would change the plugs like every few minutes.
Yeah, it was not a lot of life in those.
You'd literally do like 3 or 4 dyno pulls for on a set of plugs.
Yeah,
You could get maybe like 3 or 4, lapped on.
but yeah, I mean the uptick. I think a lot of that can be contributed to just the B9 platform is getting to that point in mileage and age, and that's we're starting to see where some of these components are just cycling through their lifespan. There's more and more cars in the higher mileage ranges these days.
It's also a function of like the number of people that are tuning these cars.
Yes,
exploded.
Yes,
a year and a half ago, there was 17 people, and now there's thousands and thousands. So you're just hearing the amplification of some pretty basic minor issues. You're just hearing about it a lot more. But
percentage wise, it's from what we see, from a support side, it's a very small percentage.
Yeah,
that run into issues with these.
Someone's asking about Pure 750 tuning. We are working on that.
We are working on that. Yep.
So it's coming. Sorry, just got to hold down some papers just a little longer. I don't know if I want to give any light to this. Anything to do with Mario on there. So good. Let's see.
We got a lot of questions we're looking through here.
Yeah, sorry.
We went to that last week.
Can B9.5 owners with TCU patch file still go stage 3 without a TCU tune?
Yeah, I believe it's fine to my knowledge. I needed to check with Chris on that, or we need to do some more testing here on that, but I believe it's fine.
What's the best beginner mod from you guys to put on my new S4 B9?
Beginner mod, I'd say a tune.
Yeah, definitely tuning.
Very, very easy to apply in a beginner level.
Yeah. Stage 1 tune's no brainer. And then like springs and sway bars is a really nice upgrade just as far as transforming kind of the car's handling and the way it drives.
Yeah, you want the easy
feels.
Bang for your buck mods. Those two are going to really
start with that and you'll be hooked.
Change things up.
As a VW Audi tech at a dealer, I can't go a week without having a vehicle that needs one or multiple injectors. from the Atlas to the SQ7 8, it's been a problem since DI became a
Yeah, I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, the
Yeah.
Mark 6s you always had to go through injectors on. Mark 7,
Yeah.
the Mark 7s were less problematic.
I
but
feel
they
like
still,
Mark 7s weren't
they-
bad. Yeah.
they're not prone. I think we had one on our GTI go maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, recently.
Yeah. But I mean, in general, that I don't think it's nearly as much of a thing. But Mark 6 for sure, those all did injectors. The B8s certainly do. The 3.0 Ts.
Mm-hmm. What ethanol content do you recommend for a B9 on stage 3 E65?
Well, I think it's kind of self-explanatory. E60 is what's recommended on an E60
Yeah.
file.
Like he goes on to say there's a range of E60.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, E60 is good. It could be E61 or E63, but shoot for E60.
E60 is going to give you the most headroom in your fuel system. So E60 is going to be the octane that we've tuned for, while giving you the most overhead in flow because you're using the least amount of fuel for that file. So.
An additional question that we get regarding that is some folks will be at like 67 and they ask if they should blend down to E60 for more power.
There's no more power. Zero difference in power. You're not going to notice anything there. It's just the tune's not going to be like, hey, I've got 1% more fuel I could use, so let's give you more power. We're not.
You want to stay away from E85
On an E60.
On an E60 file, yeah.
But the concern is if you have too much E content, then the fuel system won't be able to keep up with power demand. Right. So you do want to try to stay near E60 if possible. But if you're at E67, you don't necessarily need to blend that.
Yeah, no,
but if you're at E75, you should.
And then you're in an E85 file.
Yeah. Besides your guys' springs and rear sway bar, what's the next best handling upgrade from 034 on the MQB platform? Definitely anything to add more camber and caster to the car. So we have a range of products from RCO lower control arms to our ball joints to our upper camber caster camster.
There's so many iterations you can set up on there.
Yeah, so we have so many different options, but I would say if you just want to do one mod, the camster mounts on the top are a great one because they give you that camber and caster. RCO control arms are good for little to no NVH.
Yes, it's all factory designed. Factory style interfaces everywhere.
Yeah. So, those modifications are really transformative to the handling, and that's one of I think probably even as big as the rear sway bar, like the sway bars and springs is once you add that camber and caster, it really changes the steering feel.
Yeah,
speed of it. How the car responds.
The next thing for that I would say is find a really good shop that can do alignments to your spec and is comfortable with or has a knowledge to know what works on vehicles and or can adjust it for you the way you want it. That is going to be kind of the magic sauce that puts it all together.
Is there any way to change throttle damping on stage 1 B8.5 depending on sport mode or comfort? I like the aggressive zero throttle damping, but it's a pain to drive at least.
Yeah, I've had some people mention this on the 8.5 in particular. It is sharper.
Yeah, especially on the supercharged.
It's because of the motors. It's just an instant response. There's no way to change it in this software per se without a reflash. But hit up tuning at. We can take a look at that for you. Tuning at for motorsport.com.
How's the recent testing and development going on the flow forms?
They've been getting a bunch of track miles.
Very good.
And so far they're very good.
We are finished testing and we're moving to production now. So we wanted to release them like a year ago, but with everything going on in the world, it's been harder to bring them to market. But this past week we finally conducted all of our testing and we're able to put them through to production. So hopefully we'll have something for you guys by this summer. A really, really nice, high quality, very strong, lightweight, and affordable wheel option. Let's see, someone was also Eagerly waiting for the files to flash my 2023 RS5 to be uploaded to the server. Curious what goes into sourcing these, quote unquote, sourcing these new model files. In the meantime, I had the stage 3 handling package, ResX, pipes, X34 intake installed, all fire 100.
Awesome.
And ZTF 20s ordered. Thank you all for the excellent products.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the support.
Really appreciate the support and the enthusiasm. As far as where are we at with?
Oh, on that file, I'd have to look and see. I'm not sure that exact box code.
Yeah.
I thought we had full coverage on everything right now, but maybe this is that specific.
Definitely email tuning 034motorsport.com if you need to update there.
Yep.
As far as sourcing files, I mean, there is some basic help that we can buy from companies that support companies.
It comes from all over the place. Some direct from the manufacturer, some as in like they have sources for shops to reflat and reprogram and do that anyway, public facing endpoints. But some of it's in the car, extracted from the ECU. Some of it,
a lot of it we're doing themselves here by reverse engineering or cracking or recalibrating.
But yeah, no. Once we've got it, it is the 100% stock file that came on your ECU.
Can I use 5W40 on my B9 S4? Sure.
Yep. We talked about this a couple episodes back. I don't know if we put any of the.
I mean, you put 30 weight in your B9 S4 if you want.
A few times.
Yeah. Yeah. 540. I think a lot of people are running that right now.
Yeah.
We do.
Yep.
Or we could also say, I don't know, can you? Are you able to add a feature on the mobile app to where I can turn off burbles but have the exhaust valve still on, or the ability to adjust burbles?
We've talked about some stuff.
Sounds like they want a left or right swipe on burbles.
Yeah, the mobile app is going to introduce a much easier interface to do some things like this. How deep down that rabbit hole we end up going, we'll have to determine. Feature comforts like that they're a little tricky to implement just from at a hardware level, because you can set it wherever you want, by the app or whatever we give you, cruise control stock, or however we end up putting an interface there. The problem is when you shut the vehicle down and saving those settings, we have to then isolate a certain amount of memory aside that we can store that setting to somewhere. And there's not a lot of free area for tons of different settings to be stored, after vehicle shut down in a non-volatile spot of the memory. So saving settings like that is actually the more cumbersome effort than actually putting the switches in. So you'd either have to open up your app and do it every single time you start the car, which is, I don't think how we want to do that, or we'd have to pick some very select features that we want to have carry over through a steer.
Yeah,
well, ignition off and start. So there's a lot of technical reasons that stuff like that gets tricky. But once the mobile app is out and in people's hands and on devices, it's going to be easier to add more of those features for you guys.
The goal initially is to allow you to flash from the device, and then you can start left and right swiping and stuff later as we add more stuff.
Yep.
Can we right swipe?
I think so.
I like that.
There was another related question I thought. I guess
This was related to.
Oh, that's what it was. Do we need to buy a new dynamic tuning cable for the mobile app?
That's going to really depend, on what cable you have. We'll talk about that more as it comes up to release.
We'll release more information. If at some point you do need a new cable, we'll try to make it as easy as possible. The reality is, technology moves forward, and so
depending on the exact cable you've got. There's also, I was actually just talking with
and hardware becomes outdated, and we have to update it. You can't buy everyone's cables back because they bought a cable.
We're trying to make it as inclusive as possible. We're looking at, we can even, on a number of Android devices, you can plug in directly to the USB port and program through that, even with the old original cable that has no wireless radios on it at all. So there's potential there to support a lot of these cables that are already out in the field.
Will you do anything with the new diesel S5 or petrol only? For the time being, we have no plans to do diesel performance.
No. And we don't get those here, so it's not a
No.
it's not a thing we even have easy access to.
On B9.5 RS5, any benefit to running 275 or 285s or other sizes with DTF R1 wheels, or are 295s ideal in most scenarios?
That depends on the tire. The actual section width of the tire varies a lot from manufacturer to manufacturer. So I mean, you can figure out based on your wheel width and then checking the manufacturer specs of the tires you're looking at, kind of how that squares up on the wheel.
The reality is, it's not that much difference between a 275 and a 295. But I think most of us would prefer to squeeze as much tire as we can underneath the car.
Yep.
With the ZTF R01s, the 295s fit really nicely. I don't know off the top of my head if a 275 is even a good fit. That's a 10-inch wide wheel.
275 have been put on there. It is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
So
I think most tires are most brands 275s are going to be a little kind of.
We're not going to recommend stretching a tire on any application. And the 275s are hardly a stretch compared to what some very highly regarded people are doing these days. But I'd say 285, 295 is good. Now on some of the drag setups, we've run smaller, narrower wheels.
That's the wheel package gets
to allow using a specific drag tire. And when it comes to drag tires, bigger, wider is not always better.
Yeah, the contact patch you're using is only
Yeah.
in longitudinal. You're not doing hopefully you're not doing any lateral lifting on the car. So yeah, it's a very different application of power.
Any update on the new B9 SQ5 open air intake? They were in production last I heard, but I would like to pair with my incoming TT7. Correct. Yes, it's still going. So I'll probably say way too much, but we had a design that was finalized that was going to production, and we did another, as we often do here, an extra test fit. And a different engineer evaluated it and found that the fitment wasn't quite up to our standards. So we went back and made some design changes, and we had to redo the molds and everything. So I'm just telling this story because we purposefully delayed the release of this product at least another 3 months. We spent thousands of dollars with more R&D, design, engineering, and then thousands more on top of that on new molds and things like that. That's our fault. Shame on us. But just to let you know, that's the extent we go through to ensure that our products do meet our standards of quality, fitment, and hopefully your standards as well. Our goal is always to kind of exceed the customer standard by ensuring that our standards are the highest of any. So that's why the delay, but it is coming. It's going to be awesome. It'll be very well priced and extremely high performing units. Please wait a little longer, and I think you'll be very happy you did. Do you think the world record RS5 is maxed out? The S4 S5 on the A10 looks more promising. I've got the 720s on RS5.
So that world record RS5 run, I think needs to be remembered. That was done full weight.
Full weight street.
So yeah, there's a lot. There's certainly some more drag setup that can be done with that car.
I mean,
What's that?
Come back.
Yeah, I mean that.
You think that's a good idea?
I think people forget that car was literally put wheels and tires on it and go to the drag strip kind of setup.
The RS5 is very potent. I think the jury's still out on which one's better. They're both awesome, thankfully. If I think the way you go about it is if you have an S4, you use that. If you have an RS5, you use that. If you're thinking about which one to buy, they are different cars. They look different.
They certainly feel different. They drive different.
Feel and drive different. The RS5 has different gearing than the S4. You can certainly put a lot more tire in the RS5. RS5 is very sexy, I think, but it's only 4 seats. So, it depends what you're looking for. But both cars will run, it's no problem with bolt-ons. So, we got 6 minutes. I emailed support on my throttle being too sensitive.
I just saw that, yeah.
They wouldn't look into it for me. The 2013 A7.
I mean, it depends, I guess, on.
I don't know.
Yeah,
what
this
that
is
means.
a tricky. Well, this goes back to the throttle damping one we had before.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Normally, we don't do custom tweaks.
We don't
Yeah.
as a policy.
So I mean, we can look at softening all of that up, but that's a huge effort. So the more, I guess the thing is, the more we hear about the requests, the more likely it is to be an effort to change the
Yeah.
something on the file.
But it has
So,
to get to a level where
Yeah.
we can justify it for everybody. So one thing we do is we do track these requests.
Mhm.
If more and more people feel like they want or need it, then we will certainly do it.
Yep.
Is there an update on when the B9 SQ5 air intake will be back in stock? We don't have that information here live on the air, but if you'd like an update, please email contact@034motorsport.com and we will give you the latest information we have. Someone's asking, what's your background with cars? Were you a gearhead? Did you go to school to become an engineer? Why did you start this company? So I was a gearhead. I was very into cars.
Was.
When I started the company, yes, this was. Actually, started college as a mechanical engineering major. I did mechanical engineering for 1 year. I got through calculus 1. I'm not a math guy. I'm a generalist, so I'm good at learning how to do lots of different things, and I learn how to get very good at doing something that I want to get good at. But I don't do it by learning a bunch of math I'll never use. And so calculus 1, while very interesting, there were 2 more calculuses after that, and then there were other kinds of math and like inorganic chemistry class, all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm like, I don't need to, I'll never need to, I don't need to kill myself to learn those things. So I looked at what I could do with my calculus class that I got a C in, which I was very happy with. And so I was able to kind of parlay into a business degree, which I always knew I wanted to start a business. I always knew I wanted to end up in the business world. And the more I thought about it, I didn't really necessarily want to be an engineer in a company. I wanted to be running the company or, involved on the strategy side of the company. And I love products. I love engineering. I love design. I love creating solutions. I just didn't need to be the guy sitting behind the CAD, so to speak. So by getting my business degree, it really enabled me to achieve my goal of wanting to start and run an engineering company with my deep and intimate knowledge of cars and all things mechanical. I'm a physics buff. I love mechanics. I love solutions. And for me, I've always been able to kind of have these like models in my head. And so I build these models with experience, information that I pick up along the way. My brain is really good at just kind of gathering information and sticking it in the database. And then when I think about things, I'm able to bounce all these ideas and concepts off the solution. So I do have the pleasure of starting and running an engineering company. I don't have an engineering degree, and really you don't need one if you want to run and manage an engineering company. You need to have a very strong focus on what are the objectives and the outcomes that we all need to be working towards, but you don't need to do all the work yourself. In fact, you need to build a team of people anyways. And so, why not hire people who were able to go through all those math classes that you didn't want to do that kind of work that you don't really want to. But for me, getting the experience and the knowledge and learning what I actually needed to know versus taking all those classes that I would never use, just was a much more effective way to use my time in college. So for me, and what I tell everyone too is just get a degree, get through college, unless you want to become a surgeon, you're going to have to go through medical school. If you want to become a lawyer, you're going to have to go through law school. But if you want to go out in the world and express your creativity and do what you love, you just, it's good to get a business degree, learn about statistics, get good at writing, uh, learn how to think, learn about logic, logical fallacies, and things like that, and then go out in the world and do your best work and express yourself and learn anywhere and every way you can. All right. Well, a lot of good questions this week. There are a number.
We certainly didn't get to all of them, guys. So we're trying to get through these.
I think we got most of them, but we'll save them in case we need to get to them next week. But you guys put in a lot of good questions lately, so thanks for joining us once again. I think we'll probably be back next Monday.
Think so?
All right. Cheers.